Start. Well, Robert, how are you?
I need to go back and look at old vlogs or podcasts and see how many you've called me Robert at the beginning of. Is that really like a thing you've done and I've just been completely oblivious?
It's only occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only occasionally.
It's funny though.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay, Joshy. How are you?
Well, tired today.
Why are you tired?
Just didn't get the sleep that I needed last night.
Oh, Joshy.
But I am excited for this theme song. So I need to just describe it a little bit. I'm surprised we've missed it. Because I think you will immediately get it. So, 90s.
We didn't do a lot in the 90s, right? We did a
No,
lot of
we didn't.
80s and then we did kind of modern.
And we did,
So-
and we went back to some classics in
Yeah.
the 70s and the 60s.
Okay, cool.
I think you'll get it immediately.
90s has some really good ones.
Well, and it's when I played it again, I went, yeah, this is a unique one because, and I don't want to give it away, but I'm going to say this anyways. I'm almost positive that the star of the show is singing the theme song. But it's like when I hear the song, I go,
Huh.
why was this theme song for this show?
That's really cool.
They don't like.
Oh, they don't match?
Well, just the lyrics of the theme song are. I need to like do a deep dive into why they picked this song.
It's cool though when one of the actors or actresses on the show sings the theme.
Absolutely,
Yeah, I like that.
but you don't automatically realize it's
It's
that
them.
actor.
Gotcha.
But you can hear it if you really once. Now I've said it, you'll hear it. So let's just play this.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, I got some good volume here.
Oh, now we're whispering.
Shh, shh, shh,
Okay.
shh.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
Oh my gosh, yes, Frasier.
Baby, I see you confused.
And
Baby, but I got you pegged.
this, it's coming back.
But I don't
Remember I
know
teased it out recently?
those tossed salads
And scrambled eggs.
They're calling again.
It is a very unique thing. That's one of the most unique theme songs there is.
Isn't it?
And you're 100% right. That's Kelsey Grammer singing it.
Yep.
And kudos on that. Like, your thoughts. I've never thought of it before. But you're right. I don't know if there's ever been a theme song that had so little to do with the actual show. That's so random.
Tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Oh, baby, I hear the music playing, tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And if you seem a bit confused, well, maybe I've got you pegged. I mean, even the lyrics don't make sense.
So did you watch Frasier?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
me
not
too.
religiously, but yeah, I was we were both huge
We kind of
Cheers
had
fans.
to. Yeah.
Huge Cheers fans. And Frasier is a great character. I honestly think Frasier is a better character in Cheers than he is actually in his own show.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, he's more neurotic
exactly
in Cheers.
Totally.
They kind of they toned down the neuroses in Frasier, in the show Frasier. But and his dad is forget who played his dad.
Yeah.
A famous actor.
What's his name?
Mulvaney? No.
Yes. Yes.
Mulvaney?
John
Mulvaney? Something like that?
John something.
Anyway, and
That
David
really-
Hyde Pierce
that really
as the brother.
narrows it down. John something.
John!
Well, and I remember he had this great apartment where looked out on the Seattle skyline.
Yeah.
He and Niles always drank sherry. Sherry Niles as he walked in. I still am not really sure what sharing is.
Like, they did a good job really emphasizing just how snobby
Mhm.
Frasier and Niles really were.
Yep. And the dad was the
total opposite, which was really
which worked.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
worked for the show. Yep.
but it's also like if you've ever seen an interview with Kelsey Grammer, like there is so much of him in Frasier, and so much of Frasier in him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The actor and character seem to be made for each other.
Lilith Stern and Crane. I remember watching that episode where she came back. Because they had that great relationship in Cheers.
You know what bothered me though?
What
always bothered me about that show is that he was living so far away from his son.
Where was the son living?
With Lilith.
Yeah. In Boston?
Boston or someplace. Yeah, like he just moved across the continent and didn't just leave Lilith. He left his son when he did.
I don't remember that at all.
And yeah, that I always kind of was like, yeah, I really don't like that about your character.
Yeah.
And I don't like how they treat that dynamic of his life so minimalistically.
That's interesting because I didn't like that he left all of his friends at Cheers. That he moved across the country.
No, that didn't bother me.
In relationship with them anymore.
It was the son.
Yeah.
I was totally okay with him leaving his friends.
Yeah.
I was not okay with him leaving his son.
Do you know that I played Frasier in high school in a school play?
For real?
Yeah. Yeah. Did just an amazing job.
I'm sure you nailed
it.
it.
Just exuded.
Can you give me a little taste?
Frasier
Can you give us? Can you give us a taste?
No.
Do you even remember what was the play about?
It was about. This was my high school theater class when I was a senior, and we.
And for those who don't know, Joel went on to major in theater production.
No.
Or
TV and video production. Yeah.
But a related field.
Sort of, not really. I did not dabble in the theater arts at all, except for this class, which was fun. And so we were, as a class, struggling to figure out what we were going to offer as our production. And so we decided our play was going to be about a theater class that was struggling to figure out what to do. And so we'd have these dream sequences where we'd say, what if we reenacted Cheers? And then we would do a little Cheers skit, because this was 92, 93, when Cheers was coming to an end. It was at its height.
It was really,
and then we had a couple other dream sequences that I can barely remember. But in our Cheers dream sequence, I was Frasier. I don't remember anything else, but that I got to play.
Were you wearing a tweed jacket with the elbow patches and?
Oh my gosh, no, I can't remember.
That's cool.
But I remember playing Frasier.
Can I call you Frage?
No. All right, let's get to it, Pastor Rob.
Let's.
So we are in the midst of our Lenten sermon series, Less is More. We're talking about sin and confession. Our goal, which we are trying to accomplish here, is to not... You okay? Yeah. The same cover right there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're striving to not, in this series, condemn or to judge, not point to the sins of others, instead of recognizing our own. And ultimately, we're trying to get to an understanding of sin and confession that leads us to healing and wholeness and living into who God invites us to be, desires us for us to
amen.
be.
Well said.
And so we, this past Sunday, started talking about less idolatry, more clarity. Mm-hmm. And we explored the story of the probably ultimate idol story in the Bible.
Classic.
Of the Hebrews literally building a golden calf.
A golden cow, yeah.
As they were in the wilderness, Moses was up at Mount Sinai. He's not coming down. He would, I think, I remember correctly, he'd be up there for days, weeks at a time. Just they start to wonder.
He was getting the Ten Commandments, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what he was doing up there.
Yes. Well, I think he
Among a whole bunch of, like, the whole law.
he
God
went up,
was giving Moses the whole law.
he went up a few times. I think. I think it was not just always this moment. Though this is Exodus 32, so Exodus 20
Yeah, you're right.
is when he receives the law.
But he'd been getting the law that whole time, I think, from Exodus 20 all the way through to 32.
Well, he walks down. Doesn't he walk down in Exodus 20 with the commandments?
I think he walks down in Exodus 32 with them. I don't know.
No. Well,
Folks,
we're
your
gonna
pastors know the
talk
Bible.
about this later. Anyways, the Hebrews get a little frustrated
I think he does walk down. You're right.
that Moses is.
Just to clarify,
Yeah,
you're right.
I think we found some clarity on this
Yeah.
discussion. And they get a little frustrated, anxious, and
Fearful. They're afraid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they're still trying to figure out who this mysterious presence is in God.
Yeah. Who is this thing, this entity Moses calls Yahweh?
Yahweh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I am who I am, and so we in the English vernacular call this God. The Hebrews call this the Lord. But the
Yeah.
Lord is really the pseudonym
Yeah.
that they give for Yahweh, because they believe the name Yahweh is too sacred to say aloud, so they substitute the Lord for it. So you're exactly right. The Hebrews at this point still don't really understand who the Lord is, and for that matter, they don't know where they're going still. This promised land, this journey that they've been on
Yeah.
for decades now. Where are they going, and when are they going to get there? And then Moses is taking forever, and they get to the point where, like, well, gosh, this dude's not coming back. So how are we going to get to this supposed promised land? We need something.
Yep.
So they go to Aaron and say, make us a god.
Yeah. We want to actually see this God. We want to touch it. We want to feel it.
We don't want a cloud moving before us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want to.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
want to touch it. Yeah.
So they take their gold earrings, melt them down, and produce this golden calf, and they worship it. And so comes the first commandment: you shall have no gods before me. The second commandment: you shall not make an idol, an image, and put that.
Which are really very interrelated, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
And so we've talked about idolatry as anything that we put in front of God, put before God, that we give ourselves to, that takes more of who we are.
Right.
Anything that comes before God is idolatry.
Yeah. Most Christians who know this story really just know it as, okay, so they made a golden calf and they worship the golden calf. But there's a little bit more to it than that. So Aaron is Moses' brother. He makes the golden calf. But think about this for a second. This is how they make the calf. They collect all of their gold, which even then was an incredibly valuable and important commodity. So they make this idol by taking everybody's gold,
Yeah.
something incredibly important and valuable, and they form it into the image of a young bull, a calf. Then Aaron declares that the next day will be a day for this new Lord, and they begin to venerate it. They begin to worship this hunk of metal, and one of the ways in which they worship it is they literally bring it offerings and sacrifices.
Yeah.
So they bring this golden hunk of metal, things that were incredibly important and precious to them. And remember, there are people that have been on this Exodus journey. So they haven't had an opportunity to collect or gather or grow very much, if anything at all. So what they have is what they had largely in slavery in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a wealthy or prosperous people at this point. But they still bring this hunk of metal, what little they had.
Yeah.
And that I think is very telling when you read that portion of Exodus 32. It's a tiny little detail until you realize what it means for these people to be making such significant sacrifices for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many animals did they actually have? And here they are sacrificing animals for it. How much did they actually have to give as an offering? And yet they're still giving it.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important connection to make, because we certainly don't worship hunks of metal, very obviously. Sometimes I guess we do.
Mm-hmm.
But we absolutely give what we value over to things other than God.
Yeah.
And we make tremendous sacrifices for things other than the values of God's kingdom, meaning love and grace and peace and joy. We make tremendous sacrifices for things that are frankly opposed to the values of God's kingdom, like greed and envy and, you know. So the idea that we explore on Sunday was really that facing up to our idolatry is really facing up to something that is pervasive and common within all of us, but we just really struggle to find it. We struggle to see it.
Yeah. And you, I thought, were very vulnerable in offering a great story from your own journey of what this idolatry can look like when it's not literally physical.
Yeah.
It had me thinking more about it. I've been thinking about it still, because even talking about idolatry is difficult in that once you kind of pull that thread, where do you stop? Right? I mean, like, there's just so, like, I just jotted down a couple things earlier today, just of my own, where I could easily describe each one. So, money, fitness, sports, popularity, status, work, church. Like, once you actually pull that thread a little bit, and this is the challenge of talking about idolatry,
It
is there are so many areas of our lives. Like, for me, it's not where am I idolatrous, it's where am I not? What are
Oh, wow. That's a great way of putting it, Joel.
where are the areas that I just naturally kind of put before God?
Before my relationship with God, what do I prioritize there?
Yes.
And because if there is something, then this is why it's so uncomfortable, but so important. If there's anything that you put before your relationship with God, you know, like it or not, that's called idolatry.
Mm-hmm.
And folks watching or listening know that we say that, readily confessing that yes, we engage in idolatry ourselves. We recognize it sometimes, but the other struggle is that most of the time we don't recognize it. And the times that we do recognize it are usually when the idolatry has pulled us so far away from our truest self, or the life that we really are intended to live, that we suddenly kind of look up and say, whoa, what happened? And how did I get here?
Yeah.
And when you reassess, then you begin to realize, oh, I was chasing this other than this. Meaning I was chasing this idol other than the values of God's kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why we have talked about, we're talking, this series is about sin. Simultaneously, it's also a series on the need for honest confession and reflection. And
the opportunity that confession conveys, right?
Yeah.
This is why it is, we believe it's healing and it's restorative. We all sin. Like, this is not about punishment or condemnation or judgment. It's about stating the obvious, frankly, but also not being afraid of the obvious. So don't be afraid of admitting where we are idolatrous. but instead looking for it, so that when we're blessed, and I mean this, when we're blessed with the opportunity to see it and perceive it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because most of the time we're blinded to the idolatry, but when we're blessed with the opportunity to see it, oh my gosh, what a great opportunity that is. So you can step back, reassess your priorities, and return to a truer sense of who you are and the life you're called to live.
Yeah.
You know, the Sunday examples that I gave was the pursuit of popularity at all costs when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and even in my young adulthood to my middle adulthood, the pursuit of, you know, the six-pack and the 32-inch waist, and the amount of time and money I have spent in the realm of fitness,
Mm-hmm.
is honestly a rather frightening amount of time and money.
And that's why we're talking about, or this sermon goes in that direction, because it's often these areas of our lives that are good
Yeah,
and healthy.
yeah,
Fitness is good.
yeah.
It's very healthy to care for your body, but
It
how
absolutely
quickly
is.
you can go down that slippery slope where it starts to come before everything
Yeah.
else.
I have, you know, you have 6 hours of free time in the day outside of a regular working day, right? In the morning to the
Mhm.
evening. You know, how are you spending that? Where is your attention being directed? What is consuming you?
Yeah.
You know, and for some people that's work, right? There are times I'm absolutely consumed by work,
Mhm.
and then it's, you know, step back and be like, whoa, work is way too central in my life right now.
Yeah.
And yes, even though we're pastors,
Yeah.
you know, yes, like there's a healthy balance.
That's why I put down popularity, status, work, church.
Yeah,
Church can come before
I like that you did
God,
that. Yeah,
especially for pastors, but for anybody,
Yeah.
really.
I mean, how often do we actually worship?
Mm-hmm.
Not altogether often.
Mm-hmm.
We have prayerful and worshipful moments, to be sure, but yeah, you know, what's at the center of our lives? For a lot of pastors, it would be something like church growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and church growth is a great and wonderful thing, but it's not God.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's not God, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
God yearns to be at the center of our lives. God yearns for us to love God the way God loves us, so unconditionally, so so pervasively. I mean, there's not a piece of our lives that God's love doesn't flow into.
I think that's part of the clarity that we talked about too, of less idolatry, more clarity. So be able to see the sneakiness of idolatry and how it pervades so much, but also how it ultimately doesn't fulfill. It doesn't get to what you're hoping it will get to, even though it's good, right?
Yeah.
Career is good.
Yep.
Sports are great. We both are huge sports fans.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think that's where the commandment comes in. That's what I hear when I hear these commandments and it's taken me years and years to hear them in this light of not this kind of finger pointing at me, but this constant invitation of everything else you do is not going to fill you up. It's not going to bring you this life that God invites us into.
So well said.
And so that's why we need these limits.
Yeah.
They only go so far.
And that's what confession offers us, is the opportunity to reassess all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much as we can grow this church, or as much as we don't, the size of a church doesn't define the pastor. The amount in the bank account doesn't define the person. The waist size doesn't define who you are. Your mistakes don't define. It's all what is sitting at the center of your life. And if it's anything other than God, whatever it is, it doesn't have the ability to define and fulfill you the way God does.
Yeah. Well said. Thanks for joining us, everybody.